Good afternoon. This is Debra V. Wilson. It is Monday, the 10th of October, 2016. The time is 1300 hours and 40 minutes, and that's GMT minus 6. Today's podcast is entitled Geopolitics One Click Away. And the U.S. Government has recently announced that they're fairly certain that Russia is attempting to influence American elections via several hacking attempts. My challenge for you today, particularly if you are a U.S. listener, is if you do believe the narrative from the U.S. government about the possibility of Russia hacking to influence U.S. presidential elections, why do you agree? What is your basis for your belief system? What are your sources that you're using for your belief system? If you disagree with the U.S. narrative and do not believe that Russia is hacking into U.S. websites or databases to influence the U.S. presidential elections, again, I would ask you, what's the basis for your belief system? What are the sources you're using? One of the sources that I use to attempt to understand some geopolitical dynamics and actions and events is YouTube. And on YouTube, I follow a plethora of international news sites that are international for me as an American. For me, I find it particularly interesting as an American to watch, and in all cases, the news sites I watch, they're without cost. There's no additional cost. I sign up to them and I simply watch them. And they're there. In most cases, they don't expire the videos. So I can simply watch. In some cases, I'm watching state-delivered news, and that's easy to determine. It's typically not secretive. And then I'm also watching news sources from organizations in countries foreign to me, and I watch news sources from private citizens. Again, it's all free. So very quickly, I'm going to go over a few of the news sources I use, again, that are foreign to me, and suggest Americans, as we go through the final few days of the election, taking a look at some of these news sites, understanding who's presenting you the news, what's their perspective, why they have the opinion they do, and how you integrate that information in your view of this country, the USA, and how you integrate that information in your view of who should best serve the nation. I'm going to start with Canada, and the sites online, I'm just going to list two, but you just simply need to go to YouTube, Google Canadian news, and then take your pick. But the two of the sources I use, and I use others, but two of the sources I'm going to give you the names of are CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and that's the state-run model. They do a plethora of web television programs, news, interviews. They cover topics on everything from what's happening inside of Canada to their views of Canadians' understanding of, in this case, in the focus of this podcast, American politics. The other organization I'm picking is Rebel Media. Rebel Media has a right-leaning slant. They declare it early. They declare their position. So regardless of what your politics are, you know up front who and what is delivering the news from Rebel Media. I follow other sites and other news organizations out of Canada, but I find those two particularly informative. Next, for France, I would suggest France 24 English. It's out of France. It's in English, as the title would suggest. There's a plethora of information on news and happening within France. And again, as in keeping with the narrative and point of this podcast, how the French are perceiving, and French people as the French civil society as well as the French government are responding to American politics. The next one I'm going to list would be Deutsche Welle. That's out of Germany. You get German news. They have a Deutsche Welle, and you can, when you search for it, it's simply dw.com. You can search on YouTube or DW News, and you can, if you are fluent in German, select German. Select the German option. If you're like myself and not so fluent in the German language, then go with the English version. There's a plethora of news. You might also want to take a look at Israel. Israel has the Knesset, which can be challenging unless you speak Hebrew, but nevertheless the news is there. And then there's also a channel I follow, ILTV Israel. That's Israeli news out of Israel, and it's all in English. Lastly, if you also want information such as the Knesset, which is from information on the governance of Israel, in some cases how it's happening. If you also want more government, state-sourced information, you can try following Bibi Netanyahu's channel, Israel PM channel. In many cases, it's in English or it's English subtitled, and it's very, the news, the channel is very easy to follow and very informative. Out of Russia, you might want to try RT News. You can do RT News or RT News America, or you can do RT News UK. Plethora of information. It's a state-run news agency out of Russia. You get information from Russia, about Russia, and again, in keeping with the narrative and the topic of this podcast, you also get a plethora of news of how the state, Russia, views America, which can be very informative. And the last example I'm going to give you, the last country will be the UK, the United Kingdom. There are several options. It's BBC, which is the state broadcasting agency. You can sign up for their YouTube videos, news. Channel 4 News, or the next is ITV News, and then the last one for the UK is Sky News. My suggestion in engaging yourselves in this geopolitical array of news options is to not only, again, hear the news, but understand who's communicating the news to you, understand the messaging that in which the information, how the information is conveyed to you, what's the messaging model, what images are associated with the words you're hearing, the tonality of the delivery, and the relationship between the U.S. and particularly if it's a state model, or if it's coming from an organization that supports the state's view of the USA. Again, it's free. You can sign up or not, but I'm hoping you'll sign up for at least one what's foreign to you as an American citizen, YouTube channel that delivers news. This is Debra V. Wilson, and the title of this podcast was Geopolitics, One Click Away. Thank you.